So good evening, everyone, again. Thank you for joining today again. And again, as usual, we will start with a short breathing, mindful breathing exercise, meditation to quiet our mind, to bring our mind in the moment present. So again, just try to relax, make yourself comfortable. And try to let go of any thoughts for the moment.
Excuse me. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we cannot hear. And if somebody could adjust the camera, we'd appreciate it.
And try to feel the weight of your body on the cushion or chair. And bring your mind focus or mental focus on the breath. Observing as you breathe in and breathe out, and being aware. Simply just observing mindfully and being aware. If our mind wanders off, we can always bring back to the breath. Then we can try to generate good motivation, intention to being here. And we have the option and choice to live our life more kind and compassionate life, or to live our life with more anger, hatred, ill will feelings. And if we try to live our life with a lot of anger, hatred, and ill will feelings, definitely we will not be able to find inner joy, happiness, peace, as long as we are in those state of minds. While we are in those state of mind, it take away our happiness, make very miserable in that moment. And not only it become our life miserable and unhappy, also when we are those states of mind, we tend to hurt and harm others more and make others' life also miserable and unhappy. On the other hand, if we try to live more kind, compassionate, loving life, and when we are in state of those mind, there's much more inner peace, sense of peace, calm mind. Not only it make our life more calm, peaceful, when we are in those state of mind, also naturally we tend to be more help, benefit to others. And bring more joy, happiness in others' life too. And these are nothing very complicated philosophy, is our experience, everyday experience. If you observe our mind, how we feel when you are those state of mind, and how we react, response when you are in those different state of minds. That being the case, since nobody wants to be miserable and unhappy, we must start for effort to trying to reduce those negative emotions that makes our life unhappy, miserable, as well as others' life unhappy and miserable. And we must put effort to cultivate and develop and improve those positive state of mind that help us to find more peace, calm, and that help us to be more productive, helpful, benefit to others. And to reduce the negative emotion and to increase loving kindness, compassion, we need to contemplate, meditate, and practice continuously with a lot of effort. And for that, we have to be reminded of the importance of reducing the negative feelings and to improve and increase those positive emotion all the time. And for that, we continue to study, learn by listening, by reading, reflecting, contemplating, whenever possible, as much as we can. For that purpose that we have gathered here, to listen, to reflect, to contemplate on that. So we might be inspired, encouraged, reminded, and so that we can, with that kind of inspirations, encouragement, reminder, we try to apply and integrate in our everyday life as much as we can. And may us here coming together to study the Dharma and to reflect, contemplate. May all of these become cause and condition to generate and fully develop true love, compassion, the conventional and ultimate Bodhichitta mind. And to achieve fully awakened state. So we can be not only help and benefit to others, but greatest help and benefit. And not only for few, but to each and every sentient beings. Okay, so then
To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and a good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all three ever devout homage, to all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as the realms, atoms, in all aspects. With the supreme faith, I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, but perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a visual aberration, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits, may all sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. The heart to the perfection of of Wisdom Sutra. I prostrate to the Arya Triple Gem. Thus did I hear at one time. The Bhagavan was dwelling on a massive vulture's mountain in Rajgira, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in the profound concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara: how should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra: Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element, and so on, up to and including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the endpoint of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly, completely awaken to the unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as truth since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Tayata om gate gate para sam gate bodhisoha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that consecration and commended the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage. It is like that. It is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, and all of those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. Sajipaki Jungshing Me Do Jamri Ravishi Nyige and Adi Sangye Shindu Nite Yogunda Ashita Shubhasho idam guru rana mandalakam niryatayam. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. For the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye chodam soki chodam la chanchu badu damni kapsuchi dagi chani angi be sonamgi Yola pinchir sangye drupa shok sangye chodam soki chodam la chanchu badu damni kapsuchi dagi chani angi be sonamgi Yola pinchir sangye drupa shok.
So we have been Nagarjuna's commentary to Bodhichitta, and we just finished the sections on ultimate Bodhichitta and the object of the ultimate Bodhichitta, the emptiness. And then we can just on the verses where come to the conventional Bodhichitta or the awakening mind. And we last week we discussed a verse where he says, once you have these realizations of emptiness, and someone who has had the inclination in both of the path, and someone who has a realization of emptiness, and that will give rise to the Bodhichitta mind, or that will give rise to the strong loving kindness, compassion, Bodhichitta mind, because of that understanding of the emptiness. Yeah, and then in coming to the, and that is why also he presented the emptiness first, and the conventional Bodhichitta awake mind later. And then in terms of the how to cultivate the Bodhichitta mind, then there are mainly two kind of meditations technique, and one techniques 7 point of cause and effect, and known as that, and the other technique known as equalizing extension set with others. And within that, he started with for the first technique of 7 point of cause and effect. And within that, we kind of discussed a little bit last week, by recognizing, how everyone has been your kind mothers many times, kind father many times, friends many times, siblings, and so forth, and when they were that, then how much help and kindness they gave to us, so recognizing everyone has been, your mothers, and kindness of the mothers, then to repair the, cultivating the wish to repair that kindness, and cultivating love, cultivating compassions, and then on the basis of that, to love and compassion, generating the special attitude to free them from their suffering, cause of suffering, and lead them to happiness and cause of happiness by myself alone, taking that strong responsibility to do that yourself, and then in order to do that in the best effective way and in the most beneficial way, then the need to become ourselves more, become ourselves enlightened, and with that understanding, the wish to achieve fully awake, fully enlightened state, in order to benefit and help sentient beings So that is, more or less that particular meditation. You go to those, points to feel and to develop that Bodhichitta mind. So, so in terms of actually the verse itself, we finished verse number 74, And so we are in verse number 75, So once you cultivate that, the wish to repair the kindness, or how can we repair the kindness, is then, there in 75. To those beings that are being scorched by the fire or affliction in existent prisons, just as I've given them suffering in the past, is it befitting today that I give them happiness? So, by reflecting, contemplating how sentient beings in this cyclic existence, samsara, how they are, even they do not wish any pain and suffering, how everyone is experiencing pain and suffering, on many different levels, on physical level, on emotional level, on mental levels, especially, due to the afflictive emotions, due to the fire afflictive emotions. When those afflictive emotions manifest very strongly, regardless of where you are, what your normal situations, it disturbs your mind when you have those negative feelings, emotions arising, that make sentient being extremely miserable. Even when they're physically very healthy, feeling well, even you have good job, even when you have, good living standards, But when you are in that state of one of those afflictive emotions arising very strongly, it completely make your life miserable, unhappy in that moment. And as long as we are the prisoner of those afflictive emotions, there's no real happiness. There's no real peace. And when we have those afflictive emotions, then again, we make a lot of mistakes. We make a lot of mistakes. We engage in unhealthy, unwholesome actions, or through body, speech, and mind. And through such unhealthy and unwholesome actions, again, it brings more pain and suffering to ourselves. It creates more pain and suffering to others. And through that actions, it creates cause and conditions to continue to circle in this prison of cyclic existence. And, never being end from that. So we try to reflect, contemplate how others are suffering in that way. And we try to contemplate and understand their pain and suffering through reflecting our own experience. Just like when we have some, illness and a lot of pain and suffering, because we have gone through that, we understand when someone's going through that, what it is like to be in that. You can feel their pain, suffering more strongly because you know what it is like to be that in that state. So you can understand that the others feeling better, others pain better. You can understand, you can feel for them and to feel the compassion more strongly. In the same way, first we try to think on ourselves, how we become so unhappy and miserable when one of those negative emotions arises. For example, we are feeling life is so great at the moment, or any time, because everything seems just perfect. No problem. Everything just seems just perfect in our life. And we feel like, oh, life is wonderful. Suddenly something happens that triggers your mind. And then suddenly one of those afflictive emotions arises strongly, completely your perception about life then becomes totally different. Because that totally change your feelings. Your mind is so disturbed now, so upset, so disturbed, boiling with that fire, the volcano of that agitations, disturbed mind, Now it started to feel very different, started to feel people are bad, not good, life is not good, bad, all kinds of things, So that is how it can become, how it can change when one of those afflictive emotions arises so strongly. And it's very painful, Until those negative emotions subside and become reduced, no matter what someone tried to do, someone tried to help, it doesn't change, So that with that, our own experience, we try to understand how painful it is, how miserable we become when those negative emotions arises. With that, our own understanding, with our own experience, then we try to apply to others. And then, understand what it is like to be under the influence, under the control of those negative emotions. How painful it is, how miserable it is, how disturbing it is when one of those negative emotions arises. So you are not just making up, but you understand with your own experience. You have understood your own experience, and now through that, you try to understand others, that feelings, their pain, their sufferings. And with that understanding, we try to cultivate love, compassion, and then we try to, with that understanding and feeling of love, compassion, we wish them to be free from all their, suffering, cause of suffering. We wish them to be free, have all the happiness and cause of happiness. And we make a strong determination to contribute, to help, to reduce their pain and sufferings, to improve their happiness and cause of happiness. Through that, then we try to avoid harming others, hurting others, by understanding they are already in the pain. I should not increase more pain, more suffering. They are already suffering so much, being under that total, being prisoner of those afflicted emotions and the karma. With that understanding, they are already suffering so much. So when they are already suffering so much, I shouldn't create more pain and suffering by engaging in any kind of harmful, hurtful actions. And we try to avoid that. Instead, we try to help as much as we can. We try to be benefit as much as we can. So that is where, by understanding in the past, due to not understanding, we have hurt so much, so many sentient beings. We have harmed so many sentient beings. By engaging in such hurtful and harmful actions, not only we hurt and harm others, we also hurt and harm ourselves with such behavior and actions. Now we don't want to. Now, at this time, we have met the Dharma, we have understand a little bit, and therefore, I don't want to engage in such harmful and hurtful action again as I have done in the past, making strong determination, making strong effort not to do that, And instead, trying to be help and benefit by helping and benefit others. And by engaging in the action that help and benefit others, it also help and benefit yourself. When we try to help and benefit others out of true love and compassion, it improves and increases your love and compassion. And when your love and compassion increase and improve and get more stronger, the tools to be more happy, peaceful, calm, and to achieve ultimate happiness only increase. So it only brings benefit to yourself. It only helps you. Also with such true love and compassion mind, and when we act in the helpful, benefiting, helpful actions, also, we create virtues, positive karma, naturally. And by that, engaging such virtues and positive karma, we experience more pleasant experience in the future as well. So, not only it help and benefit others, it also help benefit you. So that is why, it is befitting today when we have understood, when we have met the Dharma, when we know the Dharma a little bit, that I give them happiness, So therefore, instead of harming others, I should help, benefit. Instead of creating more suffering, I should create more cause and condition for more happiness. So that is training your mind in that and trying to act that way is, the way to improve our loving kindness, compassion, bodhichitta mind, and is a way to repair the kindness. Repair the kindness on mental level, on physical level. So whatever way we can. So up to here, then that is, here, of course, Nagarjuna doesn't go very details, but, short explanation on the technique of how to develop the Bodhichitta mind through the 7-point of cause and effect. And from next verse, 76, then we discuss on this particular method of equalizing, exchanging self with others. And in part of that exchanging, equalizing self with others, that particular meditation technique, is first equalizing self with others, the first point of meditations. And what that means is, we want to be happy all the time, even in a dream. Even in a dream, we don't want nightmares. Even in a dream, we want good dream, not a bad dream, nightmares. So it is clear, not only when we're awake, even when we're in sleep, even when we dream, we want to be happy, and we do not want sufferings. And that is our innate, from the birth, that is, we all have that feelings, without being taught. Wanting to be happy, not to suffer, And so, just as we have that innate feeling or wish to be happy, not to suffer, equally, understanding equally, each and every sentient beings have that innate wish and feeling just like ourselves. All human beings, all animals, all other form of beings, sentient beings, they all have same, equally, just we are not exceptional. Everyone has that same feeling, same aspirations. So understand that equalness. Especially, I think it is, good to, emphasize on someone we have, someone we dislike, or someone we, also that persons have equally want to be happy and not want to suffer, no different from us. And not only we have right to be happy and not to suffer, each and every sentient being have right to be and not to suffer, equally. Our selfish attitude is such strong, sometimes we always feel we have right to be happy and not to suffer. And we fight for that. But when it comes to someone you dislike, enemy or not, and you don't feel that way, it feels like they deserve to be suffering. Instead of feeling they have right to be happy and not to suffer. It feels like, they have no right to be happy. They have no right to be happy. Instead, you feel like they should suffer. That is, that is at the moment, sometimes that is how we feel. And so here in meditation, we change that such, feeling that comes due to strong, selfish attitude. Instead, we try to focus. They are also another sentient being just like ourselves, no different. Just as I have right to be happy and not to suffer, they have right to be happy and not suffer equally. No matter how bad I am, no matter how much mistake I make, no matter, how horrible I am, still we feel we have right to be happy and not to suffer. And we always fight for that. If that is the case, also that person, how horrible that person might be, how mean that person might be, how much mistake that person might make, how much suffering that person might create, still that person has right to be happy and not to suffer, because they are sentient beings just like ourselves. So that is very important to meditate and really feel that. If we don't feel that, then it's very difficult to feel true love and compassion for others, such people. So we are equal in wanting to be happy and not to suffer. We are equal to be right to be happy and not to suffer. We have potential to be happy and not to suffer. Equally, each and every sentient being has same potential to be happy and not to suffer. So we all are equal in that level, yourself and others. So meditating that point and feeling equalness is the first step. If we can feel that we are equal in that, then it will be easy to feel compassion, love for others. If you don't feel that, then it will be very, very hard to really feel true love, compassion. So that is the first meditation. First point of meditation is, I think in terms of intellectual understanding, I think it is nothing complicating, the concept. On intellectual level, I think we all understand. But it is on experiential level. That do we really feel equal that way or not? That is one thing. And so the meditation is to feel that, not only on here in your brain, in your head, but really feel in your heart the other persons, even someone we have differences, even someone we don't agree with anything maybe, even that person's is no different from me, wanting to be happy and not to suffer, and right to be happy and not to suffer. So, even it takes weeks, months, years to really feel that. That is what we should do, really meditate on that and really feel equalness, oneness on that level. If we don't feel that, then we get distracted with small differences. And then our mind gets that, and then, oh, he or she is different, he or she is others, or he or she is this and that. And then, instead of feeling compassion, instead of feeling one, we feel more separate. It creates more distant, more boundaries, more distant. And when we have that feeling of more distant boundaries, with a lot of those boundaries, then, it's hard to feel true love and compassion. So that is the first point. Then in that meditation, second point is, meditating on disadvantage or shortcoming or the faults of selfish attitude or self-centeredness. And third point is meditating on benefit or advantage or goodness of cherishing thought for others. The more you understand how the selfish attitude is the root of all the suffering problems, the more you make effort to reduce them, to overcome them, to minimize them. The more you understand the self-cherishing, the cherishing thought for others is the root of happiness. Root of happiness, your happiness, others' happiness. The more you understand the root of all the goodness, the more you put effort into cultivating that, developing that, improving that. So therefore, here, Nagarjuna is explaining, going through some of the shortcoming or the faults of selfish attitude, and the benefit or the goodness of cherishing for others. So in verse number 76 is the fruit which are desirable or undesirable in the form of fortunate or unfortunate birds in the world. They come about from helping the sentient beings and harming them. So what do we desire? What do we wish? We desire, happiness. We desire, in terms of birth, we want a better birth, or better rebirth, higher rebirth, better rebirth, and within the higher rebirth, less problems, less obstacles, more success, more happiness, more peace. We want that, And where does that come from? What is the cause of that? Here Arjuna is saying, the cause and conditions to have better rebirth, higher rebirth, and more happiness in that rebirth is the wish to help and benefit others. That is the cherishing thought for others. The wish to help and benefit others. The mind, that wish, that cherish others, and with cherishing others, then you wish them the happiness and goodness. The mind that wish them all the best, all the success, all the goodness, all the happiness, only good, nothing bad. The mind that wish, and then, the act of trying to help them, to reduce their pain, to reduce their pain, suffering, helping them to improve their happiness, that cherishing thoughts and the actions that arise, or the act that we engage into out of that cherishing thought for others. On the other hand, the undesirable, what we don't want, something we don't desire, something we don't wish, is unfortunate rebirth and the sufferings. We do not wish, we do not desire, we do not wish unfortunate rebirth, we do not wish more pain, suffering in that unfortunate rebirth. That is something we don't desire. But, even that is something we do not desire, but if we engage in the actions that lead to that, then even you do not desire, it will arise, it will manifest. And that the cause and condition, the cause to such undesirable suffering, unfortunate rebirth is, the selfish attitude. Out of that selfish attitude, then we kind of ignore others' well-beings, doesn't care others' well-beings, doesn't care whether they are hurt or not, doesn't care whether they suffer or not. Because we don't care about them because we are too selfish, because we are too ingrained with that too much selfish attitude, self-centeredness. And then, with that selfish attitude, self-centeredness, we cannot bear small, when someone says small things, we so easily get so disturbed, upset, and angry, as the whole world is falling on you. Even the other person might have intentionally, unintentionally, knowingly, unknowingly, skillfully, unskillfully, have said something which is nothing big, nothing is serious, but you make it so serious, you make it so big. Why? Because of our strong self-attitude, self-centeredness, our ego mind. That is why it becomes. Someone who doesn't have such a strong ego mind, they can just let it go easily without feeling so much hurt, harm. And then when you feel that, and then, we hurt and harm others. We hurt and harm others. When you feel that your ego is hurt, you feel hurt, you're upset, angry, and with that mind, then we engage in the harmful, hurtful actions through our speech, our actions, behavior, in our mind, all through body, speech, and mind. And so that is such actions such actions lead to undesirable experiences in the rebirth. Undesirable, painful sufferings, and the rebirth is result of such actions, and such actions are result of the selfish attitude, the self-centeredness, egoistic mind. So that is what here he's saying, The desirable experience they come from, the cherishing thought to help other sentient beings, and by helping other sentient beings. And the undesirable experience arise from, the wish to harm others, or by harming others. That come from the wish to harm others, that come through the selfish attitude, the ego mind. And then we continue, if by relying upon sentient beings, the unexcelled state of Buddha is brought about. So what is so astonishing about the fact that whatever prosperity there are in the gods and humans, such as those enjoyed by Brahman, Indra, and Rudra, and worldly guidance of the world, there's nothing in this tribal world system that is not brought by helping others. So in the verse number 76, he explained with a very shortly, without going so details about the fault of selfish attitude and the benefit of cherishing thought for others. Now he go more details, giving some examples of what those means. So here he is saying, every goodness, every positive, every happiness from temporary happiness to ultimate happiness. From temporary happiness to ultimate happiness of fully enlightenment. They all come through the mind of cherishing others, through cherishing minds of others, such as true love, compassion, bodhichitta mind. There's no way one can achieve or actualize the ultimate happiness of fully enlightened state, fully awakened state, without cultivating the cherishing thought for others, without cultivating true love, compassion, bodhichitta mind. Fully awakened, fully enlightened state is a result of true love, compassion, bodhichitta mind. It's the result of those minds which are cherishing, the mind that cherish others. The mind that cherish others. So here is, if enlightenment, the ultimate happiness of enlightenment comes through that cherishing thought for others, of course, temporarily, he says, so what is so astonishing about fact that whatever prosperity they are in the God human, temporary happiness, prosperity, in samsara, within the human realms, within the God realms, all of them are also a result of cherishing thought for others. They all come through cherishing thought for others. That's what he's saying. So just giving some examples, such as those enjoyed by Brahman. Brahman is one of the God, the creator. Brahman, also Indra is another God. Rudra, I think it could be Shiva, Rudra sometime. Shiva is the kind of destroyer in Hindu. Brahman is the creator. The Indra is kind of the god of kind of what do you call rain and so forth, and worldly guardians of the world. So here's saying all the leader of different god realms, or the chief or the leader of different god realms, and the god realm itself, as well as within the human realms, all the prosperity, all the enjoyment, all the happiness we experience, including this, precious human life. He's saying they all are result of cherishing thought for others. They all come through that. So there's nothing in treatable world systems, the desired world realms or desired world system, that we are part of that desired world system, and then form world system, formless world system. So these are the treatable world system. So within all, these are the high rebirth, the being in those systems are the human beings and the form and formless Godhead. They are the kind of high rebirth. So they all are saying here is, and they all are result of the cherishing thought for others, the wish to help and benefit others. That is what cherishing thought is. Cherishing attitude or other cherishing attitude, cherishing others attitude is the wish, aspirations to help benefit others, and then out of that attitude, then trying to help and benefit as much as we can. So is all this saying is a result of that. And so from Buddhist point of view, the higher rebirth, a result of your positive karma, virtuous karma, and they are result of your the practice, mainly, the practice of moral discipline and generosity and pure dedications. These are known as the three main cause and condition to have a better rebirth, higher rebirth. Moral discipline is the main one. And then, moral discipline is supported by the practice of generosity and pure prayer dedications, And when we think of that, the practice of moral discipline, the basic moral discipline is to avoid 10 non-virtuous actions, what we call 10 non-virtuous actions, and engage in 10 virtuous actions. What are those 10 non-virtuous actions that we try to avoid? Taking others' life, stealing other positions, engaging in sexual misconduct, telling lies, engaging in harsh speech, engaging in divisive speech, engaging in meaningless gossips, idle gossips, through speech and through mind, covetousness, ill will feelings, ill will mind, and then wrong views. Why we need to avoid them? Why we have tried to avoid them? Because if we engage in that, it hurts and harms others. If you take someone's life, it harms and hurts someone's. And you appreciate others' life just as you appreciate your life. Just as we appreciate our life, we hold our life very precious. Same way, because you understand not only your life is precious, an object of cherish, but others' lives are equally precious, just like your life. So just as you don't want someone to take your life, also you don't want to take someone's life because you regard them precious. Because you cherish that life just as you cherish your life. So the act of not harming or taking life is coming from that, the cherishing others' life, cherishing others. Are we clear here? Yeah, that mind comes through cherishing others' life. If you don't cherish others' life, then you wouldn't, why should I avoid it? So the basis to avoid taking someone's life is coming through that cherishing others' life, cherishing someone. Same with stealing, because you don't want to hurt others. Because you cherish others' feelings, others' happiness. Because if you steal, they will be hurt, they will be upset, they will suffer. And same with all other actions. So therefore, the very practice of that moral discipline is based on compassion, cherishing thought. And of course, not only you try to avoid them, you engage in the virtuous actions of not only taking others' life, you try to liberate others' life. Instead of stealing, you try to practice generosity. Instead of, being unfaithful in your relationship physically and having a sexual misconduct, you try to be more faithful in relationship. In terms of lying, you try to be honest, truthful. Instead of harsh speech, you try to practice kind, gentle speech. Instead of engage in divisive speech, where you create divisions, within the countries, within the state, within the sangha, within two individuals, within two families, within two individuals, we try to practice reconciliation speech, how to bring together, how to bring harmony. Even when they have differences, how can we help through our speech to bring them together, not to divide others, not to talk about to someone how bad that person is, and to another one how bad that is, create that. Instead, we try to not engage, but try to bring something that can bring more harmony, more together. Instead of engaging in such meaningless idle gossips, we try to engage more meaningful, something positive, something virtuous, something meaningful. Instead of, covetousness, we try to practice detach, not being attached. Instead of ill will feeling, we try to practice loving kindness, compassion. Instead of wrong view, we try to practice right view. So we try to avoid 10 non-virtuous actions, and we try to engage in 10 virtuous actions. And the basis for that such practice is rooted in love, compassion, cherishing for others. So that is, without that practice of such moral discipline, then you don't have the cause to have a higher rebirth. So there wouldn't be a higher rebirth. So higher rebirth, whether it's a different whatever on human or in others, they all come through that practice. And within the human realms, that we don't starve to death, that we don't struggle. We still have, enough necessary to support ourselves. It's through the practice of generosity, support with the practice of generosity. And the practice of generosity also is rooted in cherishing toward others, loving kindness, compassion. Why we practice generosity? Because we feel touched by someone's pain and sufferings and need of some help, and you feel that you have the means to do, and with that feeling, you wish to help, you practice generosity. So and then to have even within the human life, not only we have this human life, such as higher rebirth as a human life, but within the human life that we don't really starve to death and struggles is practice supported by generosity in the past. From karmic point of view, that we are supported by harmonious friends, members, is practice of patience. When we have practice as a result patience, and then you create a cause and condition by to be supported by more kind, compassionate, supportive families, friends, and others. So again, also the practice of patience also comes through, again, cherishing compassion mind. Even when someone tries to be nasty on you, why you don't retaliate with same nasty and anger? Because you have received the hurt, the harm of others, and you don't want to act same way and hurt and harm others. Because of that person's actions, harmful action, you are suffering. You recognize you are suffering because of that. And therefore, you don't want to create that suffering for that person. And therefore, you don't act with such anger and retaliate with that anger. That is patience. And again, because of not wanting to hurt back, for hurting you back. And so again, that is rooted in certain level of compassion and cherishing, not wanting to hurt that person, just as they hurt you. So through that, we can understand from karmic point of view, how, as Nagarjuna explained here, how those higher rebirth and the prosperity and enjoyment and goodness within that life come through, virtues, karma or actions, positive karma or virtuous actions that are rooted in a loving, compassionate mind of cherishing thought for others. The wish to help, the wish to benefit. So yeah. And same with, sometimes we think, why we have such unqualified leaders. Well, they have created karma to be that. So sometimes we cannot stop them from being that. We try, So many people try from them being the leader of country, leader of organizations, from trying to stop them from having the power because you feel they are not qualified for that. But sometimes, no matter what we do, sometimes we cannot stop them. And sometimes we feel that they are qualified people and we try to make them, and they are unable to, because again, there is no karmic potential. So sometimes when karmic potential is so strong, it's hard to change. It becomes very hard to change when it's too strong, when it's so strong, So that is also, so basically, here all the comfort, all the, not with the high rebirth, but within the high rebirth, all the comfort, all the enjoyment, all the prosperity, all the happiness, they all come through the cherishing thought for others, the thought to be help and benefit to others. So here, that is what Nagarjuna is explaining here. So having explained the result, undesirable result, desirable result, of the cherishing thought for others. Now he go more detail on the result of selfish attitude, self-centeredness. As hell beings, so those are known as unfortunate, beings, hell beings, as animal, hungry ghosts, different kind of suffering. So different kind of suffering within those realms, different kind of suffering within these human realms, which sentient beings experiences, whether it's a physical pain, whether it's emotional pain, whether it's mental pain, sufferings, all of these come about from harming others. All of this comes through selfish attitude. Out of selfish attitude, egoistic mind, then we engage in the action that hurt and harm others. And through such actions, then we have such unfortunate rebirth. And even within the higher rebirth, then we experience a lot of suffering, pain, So again, so that is the, so in short, as Shantideva said, all the suffering in the world are a result of every suffering or all the suffering in the world is a result of selfish attitude. All the happiness in the world is a result of cherishing for others. So Shantideva's that verse and this verse are kind of similar. So I will take a couple of questions if there is. Yes, please.
Thank you, Geshe. I guess I just had a question about the Bodhichitta mind, this wish, aspiration of compassion in the context of conventional reality and ultimate reality. So, for example, if I see Lou and I see he's hungry, and I say, okay, I want to feed him out of my wish that he doesn't suffer from hunger, but I know that feeding a conventional being is not ultimate. So it's kind of like I'm not really helping. I'm helping a really like a suffering that's in the human realm, but not on the ultimate. I'm not really helping him achieve enlightenment. Do I just consider this as being on the path because I have the wish, or how should I understand that in this context?
Mm-hmm. The wish, well, I think the feeling of someone's pain and sufferings and wanting to reduce or release of that pain and sufferings is love and compassion. It's true love and compassion. And then when you try to help, you are acting out of that love and compassion. Is the expressions or manifestations of that love and compassion in actions. But it's coming from your sense of love and compassion because you cannot see or bear the pain and suffering of others. You feel the pain and suffering, and therefore you wanted to help to reduce that pain and suffering or release from that pain and suffering. So that definitely that is rooted in love and compassion, especially if there's nothing to do with your selfish attitude. Sometimes we are not even aware, but sometimes there is, hidden self-interest. Sometimes it's hard to recognize that. We feel that I'm doing for that person, but in hidden, there's one that we want back from something then. Sometimes we are not aware in that moment. We think, oh, I did purely out of true love and compassion. But later when, that person doesn't respond to you in a certain way you want them to respond, and you get upset and angry. You say, I helped you, I did everything, and you didn't do mean that. So there is that condition there. There's expectation and condition there. Because I help you, therefore you should also help me when I need it. Or therefore you should do this for me. That is clear sign that there's an expectation and condition there, even though in that moment we might not feel that way. If there is no condition, expectation, there's no selfish attitude, then you just help, and then that is it. Whether they respond to you with help or whether they don't respond, you don't care about that. It doesn't. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't affect you. It's just that. So that sometimes there is that kind of, the subtle selfish attitude with such conditions and that. So then if that happens, it's not pure love and compassion to say, if it's pure love, compassion, then definitely, we try to do just because they need help and you want to help them because you feel their pain and suffering. But of course, that mind itself, even is true love and compassion, that mind itself is not really the Bodhichitta mind, but it's the cause of Bodhichitta mind that lead to the Bodhichitta mind. That true love and compassion will lead to the Bodhichitta mind, even though the mind itself is not the actual Bodhichitta mind. But if you have the intentions, if someone has the intention to help all sentient beings to release from their all temporary suffering and the cause of all the all the sufferings, including all the delusion, all the obscuration. And not only you want to help them temporarily, but to help them to lead them to ultimate happiness of fully enlightenment. With that motivations, even the long term, we want to lead them to ultimate happiness and help them to reduce their own delusion, their obscuration. But at the same time, temporarily, we can help them to reduce whatever small pain, sufferings. And so when it comes from that motivation, then it comes from both the motivations. It's not just love and compassion, but it's the Bodhichitta mind. So it depends, the motivation can be just love, compassion. It could be the Bodhichitta mind, so yeah. Any other questions?
Do we say our name?
Yeah.
Karen Peterson. I had the question, but it was nicely formulated, and now it's kind of okay. So suffering can be alleviated by the cherishing mind towards others, correct?
Yes, because if you want to help someone to release their, it has to come through that cherishing mind. If I don't have the love and compassion, doesn't feel the pain of something, I wouldn't act to reduce of that.
This is an attempt to tease out further definitions if they exist. So the Four Noble Truths talk in universal terms. So other than the cherishing mind towards others, is there any other way? What does happiness look like?
Yeah, I think, there might be different definition of happiness for different peoples, and, but from Buddhist point of view, true happiness is when your mind is truly peace and calm, free from all the afflictive emotions. That is a true happiness. When your mind is free from those afflictive emotions that disturb your inner peace, your inner calmness, when there is free of that, that is true happiness.
But is it ever truly free? I mean, we're animals. We respond to stimuli, to smell, to strong, whatever. I just wonder if as long as we exist in the world functioning, how can we ever be fully free from those affective emotions? I mean, we can tamp them down, we can take a step back, observe, then respond. But true freedom, I don't know.
Well, of course, there are people who think it's not possible, but Buddhas and all the masters, they all say it's possible. They themselves have achieved that. So, even in our present time, Dalai Lama live in the same world that we live in. but his response is not same like our response.
No, that's true.
You know, so just that means that just because we respond a certain way and we think I cannot get rid of this, that doesn't mean that it's not possible. And Dalai Lama himself said, you know, when he was young, you know, he used to get frustrated. He used to lose his mind, but with the training mind, that has changed. And so, there are so many stories of individuals at the Buddha's time, how they used to respond, how, you know, some of them so strong desire, like they are known for among all the disciples, all the people there, there's no one who is has stronger desire than that, you know. And then there are some who was in terms of anger. And all of them, you know, after they came in contact with the Buddha, after they started to study and practice, they become totally opposite persons in the later part of their life. So
He gave a good example of the Dalai Lama of some guy turning away from him and how he was by turning away from the Dalai. And that's a good example of just how mind is in not immediately reacting the way most of us would get all upset. It was a very good example. That's it.
So yeah, from Buddhist point of view, it's possible.
I do a good deed for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I do a good deed for somebody, right? They don't say thank you. Is wanting a thank you a self-grasping behavior?
Yeah, there is some kind of, in that case, it's a clear sign that we have some expectations and some conditions. You know, if someone has no expectation conditions, they wouldn't mind. You know, if someone doesn't acknowledge your help, someone doesn't say thank you, or, you know, they wouldn't feel hurt. They wouldn't be upset.
But then I can choose not to help that person again because I don't want the suffering.
Yeah, maybe possible. If we don't change our mind, then that is how it is going to be. But then if we change our mind, you know, we train our mind, you know, I just help because they need help. That is all, whether they appreciate it or not, whether they acknowledge it or not. I don't care about that. I just help because they need help. That's all it is. If we train our mind to be in that state, then you can. But if we don't train, then that is how we will respond. You know, you didn't acknowledge me, you didn't thank me, and next time I'm not going to help you. You know, it is like throwing a coin in the water. You know, there's no response, and we want that response. And so of course, that's normal our response. That is the normal, but that doesn't have to be the response all the time. If someone trained their mind, you know. I know like a lot of practitioners, including Lama Sopa Rinpoche, you know, he doesn't care if someone, he help, not just small help, big help. And sometimes not only they don't, you know, kind of acknowledge, sometimes they might even do something bad, but he still doesn't change doesn't make him upset, angry, you know. Some of his followers will make them upset, and they try to say bad things, and Rinpoche will say, don't say that, and correct them, you know. And so that is his, and they are able to reach there because of practice, you know, through practice, you know. Yeah, I've seen many times, you know, when certain people's organizations, when he supported, and then sometime, you know, they do different things, and a lot of people around him get upset about that and talk bad about them, talking that we shouldn't help anymore. But that is not what Lama Sopa's response is. You know, he even appreciated them for giving the opportunity.
It is self-grasping.
yeah, like self-importance, maybe, our ego want, our ego is the one that want that knowledge or acknowledge, or we feel like little importance for our actions, and it feel like you are not giving importance for your actions, so.
I'm conflicted whether to say thank you for the answer.
Since I'm normal like you, so I don't think it is good. So yes, here. Well, so that will be the last questions. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
So my question is, earlier when there was the discussion about exchanging self for others and seeing others as having the same kind of happiness that we want to have, my mind also jumped, or maybe it was mentioned, to the fact that we all have a Buddha nature. And I was wondering, is this in connection at all to the tantric practice that you mentioned on Sunday, where one, after taking such an initiations, visualizes other sentient beings as divine beings, Buddhas, essentially, or is it not connected to that?
Yeah, it is not really connected to that. Here, I think is to feel the discussion in Sunday was to see everyone as being, since everyone is a Buddha nature, and then we try to see in the result everyone as enlightened beings. Here we are not seeing everyone as enlightened beings. Here is to really feel that we all are equal in that level, at that fundamental level, wanting to be happy and not to suffer. So on that fundamental level, trying to feel one and equal, same in that way. So that is the main focus here. Yeah. So we'll do the dedications.
Lama
Next.
Jangchu Sencho Rinpoche Ma Ke Panang Ke Kyu Chik Yewa Namba Me Bayang Gong Ne Gong Du Bewa. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. Our powerful Chinrei Zigten Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. Hear this teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratika Buddhas, victorious Lozang father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands. Please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious complete teachings through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge. And from other living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth and the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of Bodhichitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of the reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples.
Thank you very much. Good night. Thank you. Thank you.